everyone! Today we're going to learn about something called nominalizations and how they help us when we write about history. When historians write about events from the past, they often use specific language that helps them focus on the events and ideas rather than just the people doing the actions. One tool they use is called a nominalization. So today we're going to learn what nominalizations are, how they work, and how you can use them when you write your own historical recounts. Before we get into the definition, here's the main idea of what we're going to learn today. We are going to learn how to turn actions or events into names for ideas. That might sound a little confusing right now, and that's okay. By the end of this lesson, it will make a lot more sense. Think about it like this. Sometimes, instead of describing what someone did, writers talk about the event itself. They give the action a name so that they can talk about it like it's a thing. A nominalization is a word that turns an action or event into a thing or a name. Let's break that down a little. So normally actions are things people do. For example, run, decide, protest, discover. But when we use a nominalization, we take that action and turn it into something we can name and talk about. Instead of talking about the action happening, we talk about the event or idea itself. This is really common in historical writing because historians often want to focus on events, movements, or decisions, and not just on the people doing them. Let's look at some examples so you can see how this works. So in this first one, we must reduce pollution. In this sentence, the action is the verb reduce. Now in this second sentence, the reduction of pollution is necessary. Notice what happened. The action word reduce turned into reduction. Instead of telling someone to do something, the sentence now talks about the idea of reduction as a thing. So the focus changed. The sentence is no longer about what someone should do, but instead it's about the concept of reducing pollution. That's exactly what a nominalization does. It takes an action and it turns it into something we can name and discuss. Let's look at another example. The government decided to attack. Here, the action is decided. Now look at the second sentence. The decision to attack was essential. Instead of focusing on the government, the sentence now focuses on the decision itself. So again, the action decided turned into the noun decision. This is very helpful in historical writing because historians often want to talk about important decisions, events, or movements, and not just the people who were involved. So, why do writers use nominalizations? First, they help us to talk about events or ideas clearly. History often deals with big concepts like revolutions, protests, discoveries, or decisions. Nominalizations give us a way to name those events so we can talk about them easily. Second, they make writing sound more formal and historical. When historians write about the past, they often use language that focuses on events and ideas, and nominalizations help with that. And third, nominalizations help shift the focus from the people doing the action to the event itself. Instead of saying what somebody did, we can talk about the protest, the discovery, the decision, or even the battle. Let's look at another example. In this first sentence, people protested in 1963. Here, the verb or action is protested. Now look at the second sentence. The protest in 1963 happened in Birmingham. Instead of describing what people did, the sentence talks about the protest as an event. So the verb protested turned into the nominalization protest. You can think of it like this. A verb is an action. A nominalization turns that action into a thing that we can name. So we go from action to thing. This allows writers to talk about the event itself, which is really helpful when writing about history. You can think of nominalizations as labels for historical events or big ideas. History is full of things that have names. The Revolution, the Holocaust, the industrialization, the migration of people, or even the protest movement. These words label important events or ideas so we can talk about them clearly. Instead of always explaining the action, we can simply use the name of the event. Let's look at a couple more examples. In this first one, people voted. Instead of describing the action of people voting, we can use the nominalization, the election. Now we are talking about the event where people voted, not just the people themselves voting. The next example, people discovered the land. The nominalization of this one would be the discovery of America. Again, the focus changes from what people did to the event itself, which is the discovery. This is exactly what historians often do when they write about the past. Let's compare two sentences. People fought in World War II versus the fighting in World War II lasted for 6 years. Notice how the second sentence focuses on the fighting, which is the event. The first sentence focuses on people, but the second focuses on the historical event itself. That's the power of nominalizations. They help to shift our focus from who did something to the event or idea that we're describing. So, how do we actually make a nominalization? First, you have to look for the verb, or the action in the sentence. Then you have to ask yourself, can this action be turned into a thing or event? Let's try an example. In this first one, he decided to run. I'm going to look for the verb, and the action here is decided. Now looking at the second sentence, his decision to run saved his life. The verb decided turned into the noun decision. Instead of focusing on what he did in that moment, the sentence now talks about the decision itself. This is exactly how nominalizations work. We take an action, in this case, decided, and we turn it into a named idea or event. Let's review again the main idea. A nominalization is a word that turns an action or event into a thing or a name. Another way to think about this is that a nominalization lets us talk about actions as ideas or events. Instead of describing what someone did, we can talk about the protest, the decision, the discovery, or the fighting. This is especially helpful in historical writing because history often focuses on major events and ideas. So let's recap what we learned today. Nominalizations take an action and turn it into a name for an event or idea. They help historians or writers talk about important events clearly. They also make writing sound more formal and historical, and they shift the focus from people doing the action to the event itself. As you start writing your own historical recounts, try looking for verbs in your sentences and ask yourself, can I turn this action into a named event or idea? If you can, you've just created a nominalization. Nice work today. And now you're ready to start spotting and using nominalizations in your own historical writing.